All right, welcome back, everybody, to another Outlast recap episode. I'm Alex, and
I'm Hannah.
And we're here to recap Outlast episode 10, titled Sometimes the Best Never Win. Titled The Pieces Are Slowly Falling into Place. Shouts to Chuddy for that amazing exit interview.
Yeah, sometimes the best never win.
You know, there's a lot of truth to that. What a ham.
I'm pretty sure there's like negative truth to that.
Yeah. This was a really exciting episode, I thought. A lot of big stuff happens, even if the vote isn't super tense. Lots of big moments that bear immediate weight in the game of Outlast. Hannah, we'll start with the same question. What was the most exciting, best moment for you in this episode?
I think the most exciting moment, which we'll get to this later, I'm sure.
Sure.
We're not going to start off with it probably, but the most exciting moment for me was when Jake and Lydia found the idol or the totem or whatever we call it, and the entire like rest of the team or like the whoever's left has no clue. I mean, they just think they're like talking and they have zero clue that they've just found an idol.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, that's a big thing. Like, the totems are like, that's what carried Ben through the whole time,
For sure,
you know?
yeah.
So.
And this is the first time in this game that someone has found a totem, first of all, since the very first episode.
Yeah.
And secondly, without everybody else seeing and noticing.
Yeah,
you know?
like this is the first time we've seen this where they don't know, which is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so cool.
So I'm excited to see how an actual secret totem plays out. In the way that they're supposed to play out, where it's like this big secret twist-like advantage that someone can wield versus something that someone has that everybody knows they have, and it's just like extra added protection or like difficulty to vote them out, which is compelling too, but there's something so satisfying about the secret hidden thing that one person has and no one else knows about it. So yeah, I think that was the coolest, biggest moment too. I remember being out there and being excited, first of all, that one was found, and secondly, that it was found without everybody knowing about it.
And literally no one knew, and Jake's gone, so now she's the only one.
There's some levels to that I will definitely talk through. But like you were saying, at everybody else, like we see the conversation that the other five are having while Jake and Lydia are searching for the idol, and Chloe astutely is like, hey, by the way, what are those two doing over there? Like, are they, like she has some suspicion, and I think it's Ben who's like, no, they're just talking. It's fine. And then Will says, yeah, and it doesn't matter what they're doing because we have numbers. Yeah. And then Chloe's like, yeah, and they don't have a totem, so it's fine.
Yeah. Little do they know.
Little do they know. Yeah, they all kind of hand wave Chloe's suspicion, but it turns out she was rightly suspicious and maybe should have followed that a little bit further. Yeah. To either prevent them from finding it or getting that information, but
I know
it did not happen.
Yep.
And then by the end of things, of course, Jake Chuddy is voted out, becomes the third member of the jury, and again, a unanimous vote that I don't think he really saw coming.
Yeah. That was a rough one.
And again, we'll talk through it when we kind of go through the beats of the episode, but we were talking before we started recording, him using that reward steal in this moment was probably a mistake because of the way that delayed advantage works, where you don't actually get to utilize it
until after you have to vote somebody out.
Yeah.
So naturally, they voted him out. Like they don't want him to use it.
Right.
So, and Will was the only other one who had it, and obviously he has immunity.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the design of that delayed advantage, because we expected the person to have that to also have immunity, it would be fine because they would be safe at this tribal council anyway, right? The person who wins immunity also wins the reward, would not be able to be voted out with this thing lying in wait for them. But because Chuddy, who was not immune, of course, stole that reward, he ended up, like you said, going to that tribal council, totally vulnerable with this time-gated thing that's not going to help him until after that immunity. Yeah, it made him a really clear, easy target.
And I don't think he was super strong alliances with any of them anyway, so he probably would have gotten out eventually anyway, because he wasn't as close as he may have thought. But it definitely sped it up. I mean, it was like, okay, well, now he's the first on our list. And
it answered the question really easily. The question that they probably would have had of, do we want to get Lydia out or Jake out, or do we want to try and dupe Ben into not using his totem and get him out again? You know, it just answered that question really easily. That would have been between the three of them. Let's go back to the very beginning of this episode where Jake tells the rest of his tribe right at the beginning, like, yeah, I told Jack what that fake totem was.
Yeah.
Do you think that revealing that information to the rest of his tribe was a net positive or a net negative for him in like the eyes of the rest of that tribe?
I definitely think it was negative.
Okay.
I think he should have kept it a secret that he told Jack. Yeah, I think when we first started watching it, I was like, oh, so why would he tell all of them this? Like, he should have let them think he did what they asked and told Jack the truth. And that would have solved the problem that he had, you know, like he kept Jack on his good side, but also kept them on his good side. So yeah, no, I thought that was not a good move on his part. I don't know how it would have benefited him in any way.
Yeah. I kind of lean that way too. Because you saw in the previous episode, you know, it's like Hooten and Ben and Will who are saying like, dude, give him that fake totem. And he's like, okay. And yeah, if he, you know, maybe comes back and says, yeah, I gave it to him. I guess he thought he was going to be safe though and wanted to save it for another time. Now, you know, I don't know how big of an effect it would have had, but like people like Hooten are now like, oh, cool. He like followed through on what he said he would do. And also Jake kind of outs himself as someone who's looking towards the end and to win.
Because he's like, oh, well, if I get on
I want a jury vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that you're going to get,
And it's making it clear to everyone else, like, he's playing to win. He's a threat, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think all of the things that Chuddy did
this episode
just raised the temperature of everyone else's awareness of him in like a negative way.
Yeah. I think he kind of panicked. I think it all started with him getting the fake immunity idol and then finding that reward and having to be the one to give the fake immunity idol. I think that like just all of a sudden it just snowballed and he did not go well for him.
Chuddy was an example, kind of his demise in this game was an example of how Outlast advantages have the potential to be huge advantages for you, but also if misplayed have the potential to be disadvantages. And I think that both of his advantages, which he came into possession of, the fake totem and the reward steal, would fall under the category of things that were mishandled and therefore became disadvantages. You know, you would make the, I think, really easy case that had he not had that fake totem, he would have been better off. Had he not had the reward steal, he would have been better off.
Yeah.
And it's not because those things are inherently disadvantages.
He just didn't know how to use them.
Yeah, you have to use them right for them to be an actual advantage. Otherwise, like we saw, it just raises people's awareness and temperature on you.
It's true.
And it's a tough thing to do. You know, handling an advantage well is a really tricky thing, and it's a risky thing for this reason. But like we've seen with Ben would be the counterexample. He has wielded his hidden immunity totem really well to this point, even though he hasn't played it. You know, leveraging it has brought him almost exclusively to the final six. You knowing when not to use it, knowing how to wield it in such a way that like he becomes valuable has been maybe the biggest thing that he's done to get him to this point. So you can see both sides of that. We talked a little bit about the delayed advantage already. Because it's no longer in the game, we'll tell you what it was, because it left the game with Chuddy, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't even think I know what this is.
Yeah, so this was an advantage for the next challenge, which is why, partially why you couldn't open it until the next challenge. The next challenge, I won't spoil what it is, but it requires, like, you have to do something, like, 3 times, right? What this advantage would have done would have made it so that you had you would start with one of those 3 things already completed. So Chuddy or Will or whoever had it would have had like a serious leg up in this next challenge. And as well. So that's what that advantage would have been.
So I have a question actually, because I don't know this. You're the Survivor expert. So, what could he have decided to use that at a later time? Like, since it was a delayed advantage, could he have said whenever you told or when you were getting ready to tell Will the next challenge or whatever, could he have waited and then used it?
Used it at a challenge farther down the line?
No, I'm saying could Jake have said, "Oh, I want to use this for this delayed advantage," but could he have said it right before the challenge when you were about to reveal it to bypass the problem of
I hear what you're saying.
Immunity?
Yeah. No, he would have had to use that reward steal when the reward was handed out.
Okay.
Yeah. Not necessarily when it was enacted.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I was just curious.
I think this is the last time that there is a reward in an immunity challenge. So even if he didn't use it, it would have been dead also, and it wouldn't have carried any value the rest of the way. So yeah. I don't know. Okay. And then you also he talks about, and this is interesting too, since he talked to Lydia and knows that she got that immunity clue. He even this episode was like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't use it on the last one. It was just kind of like comfort stuff that I didn't need. But he has full recognition that also included in that was a immunity clue totem, or immunity clue for the hidden immunity totem that Lydia got, which led to her finding the hidden immunity totem. So maybe if Jake used that last time, he gets that clue, he finds that totem, and we're talking about a completely different game now.
Yeah.
So many, I mean, we've said this 100 times, but so many little tiny choices, even luck-based things could have broken differently and totally changed the game.
It's true.
So Will wins this memory game immunity challenge. It's down to both him and Lydia in the final two again. Will's now won 2 out of the 3 individual immunities.
He has. And the funny thing is, I liked this challenge more so than the other ones because I was doing it along with them. I remember as I was filming this, I was trying to remember myself. I was like, I wonder if I could do this. And I got to the point that Lydia and Will did, and I actually chose the same thing Lydia did. And I remember thinking, which
Lydia
one of them
won.
is? Yeah. And because I wasn't completely sure, so I was kind of I think Lydia's right, but I don't know. And so anyway, but it was fun because I could actually do it with them.
You can play this one along at home.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was a whole puzzle or two that I cut completely out because everybody got them all right, and it's no one needs to see this.
Yeah, it was long, but it was fun.
And it tests a different thing. To this part, the 2 individual challenges have been pretty endurance based. This one's completely mental and focus. There was a thing that Chuddy said in an interview that didn't make the cut, where he was talking about the challenges. It may have even been a conversation at camp, but he was like, man, these have all been standing endurance holding things. I need something where it's a race or an obstacle course, and then I'll be able to win them. And it turns out he was just a episode too short to try something out like that. But yeah, that's a thing that, especially with these individual immunities, you can really different. You don't have to be the physically strongest to win all of them, they test different things. So.
Yeah, I know. So far, though, it has been more endurance and mental based and the individual ones. And then, and then that wasn't, there were a couple of ones that were more race based, but they were with teams. So,
yeah. Yep.
And I think, Jake's team won anyway. So he won every single one of the team ones.
Yep. And you see, this would be a chance for someone like Will, who would be more dominant in the physical ones, you would think, to lose one. But he shows out and wins this, mental one, too. So a place where he maybe could have been vulnerable, he wins this one, too.
Yep. Him and Lydia, man.
They've been, the best 2 challenge performances so far, I'd say.
Yeah.
So Lydia finds the totem. We've talked about this already a little bit, but she and Jake go looking while the other 5 are strategizing. They find the hidden immunity totem. This is a real one, and it's hers.
It's true.
And people don't necessarily know about it, so we'll see how that all plays out.
Yep.
The advantage / idol inventory in the game now is Lydia has a hidden immunity totem, Ben has a hidden immunity totem, and that's it. You know, Chetty's out of the game. Jack's out of the game. Those are the only two advantages in circulation at this point. So
I don't know. Hopefully I'm not skipping far ahead, but can we talk about the fact that, how they voted?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the next thing I wanted to talk about too.
Because I'm still in shock. I did not catch this earlier, that Lydia and Jake were so close, and he was with her when she found that totem. Like, he kept her secrets, and she just backstabbed him. She voted him out. I was shocked. I knew she voted for him, but when you're there, you only get to catch parts because you're filming, obviously. And so I had no idea that they had formed like this pretty seemingly close alliance. And she just, she voted him out.
So let's talk about that, because I think there's both, you can make the argument for both good things and bad things about that. One, obviously he's her tightest alliance. That's an important thing to have going down the stretch as someone that you can trust. You can't really make an argument that she has really any other tight alliances other than him. That's a clear con. A clear pro, though, is that's the only person who knows about her totem. And by voting him out, now no one in the game has any idea that she has that except for her.
And, it does show the other people who are all kind of on an alliance outside, besides her. She's literally the only one really that's not in that anymore. It kind of shows them hey, I'm willing to go along with you, you know?
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is probably, I think in the long run, it probably was the best option for her. It's just funny because I don't know, she totally backstabbed him.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Ultimately, it doesn't make sense for her to cast a vote for Chloe, for instance, unless she's confident that they have enough to vote her out, you know? Otherwise, it's
just drawing attention to her. And,
right.
Yeah.
It makes sense to go along with the majority. But let's talk about this. Do you think that it would have been good / there was the potential for Lydia to go to Jake, say, okay, they're voting for you. We need to get 4 to vote for someone else, you know? Do you think that? I
think if she would have done that, Jake would have been oh, well, give me the immunity. I don't at least I feel like he would have been oh, can I use the immunity thing? I'm the one going to be voted out. Let me use it, you know? So, and then she would have had to be in that tight spot of either saying no, which is even more on his bad side, or giving it to him.
Yeah.
So
that's tough.
I don't know. I don't know if that would have been good, because I think he would have tried to convince her to give him the immunity totem.
Yeah. I think ultimately where I land is that it would have been hard to get 4 out of the 7 to vote for, especially if the target's Chloe, because I think one of your 4 has to be Chloe, because Jake, Will, and Jenna are not going to vote against one another.
You would have had to literally swing both.
It'd have to be
swing
Ben and
votes.
Chloe.
You would have had to,
And I think that would have been really, really tough, because both
Ben's not going to
again, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
The best thing probably that alliance of 3 have done is convince people like Jake, like Ben, and like Chloe that they are a part of that group. And not question it, really, you know?
Yeah. They have a tight group within, but nobody else really seems to know. Yeah.
Yeah, such that Ben and Chloe probably wouldn't flip away from them.
Yeah.
You know? They have their tight alliance, and they have created bonds and alliances with people outside of it that have made them loyal to them, and they don't necessarily have to worry about the flipping. So because of that, I think that it would have been impossible, if not very, very hard, to get a majority of 4 with Lydia and Jake. And what you were talking about, it would have opened up a whole other can of worms to maybe give that totem to Jake and maybe just delay that vote by an episode or whatever. And so I think that she did the right thing.
Yeah.
Plus the added bonus of now the only person who knows that you have this thing is no longer in the game.
It's a bummer, but probably the best decision.
Yep.
It's just funny because she smiled when she did it. I remember watching her hold up, she wrote Jake C, and then she was smirking, and I was like, oh, what a kid.
Yep.
Wow.
Queen.
Very much.
So let's talk about Jake's game a little bit, and then we'll talk about the idea of playing for the end, because that was a thing that came up a lot, and then we'll wrap up. I think Chuddy had, because he didn't go to tribal for the first 2/3 of this game, hadn't necessarily formed the sort of tight, really loyal alliances that maybe some other people in this game had.
Yeah.
And I think he really was. You hear it in confessionals a lot. He was banking on when he gets to the merge that he would be able to win these challenges and keep himself alive in that way. And he hadn't been able to. And I think that, maybe banking too hard on his ability to win those individual immunities cost him, because maybe he neglected the other parts of the game for that,
Yep.
But
It's true.
strong challenge performer.
Yeah.
Was the czar of advantages for a while. He had a whole bunch of them. So
Yeah.
well played, Chud.
It was well played. I was rooting for you.
Yeah.
Not that you're watching. You're probably not. I highly doubt it, honestly.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He's not patient enough to watch this whole thing.
And we talked a lot about at Tribal Council the idea of playing not only for now but for the end game, especially Final 7, Final 6 now. It's not enough to just think about, okay, how can I survive? How can I survive? You have to start thinking about, how can I survive and then be at a place at the end where I can win. That means going to the end with people that you think you can beat, and making these moves at this point in the game that the jury can look at and say, that was a good move. That was a powerful move.
Yeah.
They deserve to win. It gets so much more complex, especially at this point in the game, where it's not only surviving a vote, but it's also positioning yourself in a place where you are winning.
Yeah. Like right now, I mean, I think if I being an outsider, if I were on the jury, looking like Lydia and Will, they have been playing super strong games.
Yep.
If I were on the jury right now, that's who I would be looking at. I mean, they both have won challenges, and the one time or the last time Will won, but Lydia was literally right there with him, you know? So it's those two have been the strongest players.
Yeah.
So looking for, who's playing the best game.
What I love about the way that this season shook out is that you can make a legitimate case for all 6 of these people to win. Some are stronger than others, but you can make a legitimate case for each one. Lydia has gone to every tribal council and survived every one of them. Will has won 2 individual immunities and helped lead a majority alliance through the main parts of the game. Hooten hasn't made anyone upset.
Yeah. He's just cruising.
Has voted correctly every time that he's gone. Jenna was a huge power player, especially early in the game. You see the way that she leads the strategic charge. She's kind of fallen into the background, which was actually a really good move for her because she was on so high on people's minds early on in the game.
Yeah, and people were mad at her.
Yes, she's faded into the
So she's
background
kinda,
so that now she's not upsetting people, but she still is driving some of that strategy.
Yeah.
Ben has wielded this totem expertly, been a target from similarly to Lydia, like you hear Will say, has been a target from the very beginning of the game and has continued to survive. And Chloe has played a really strong social game and strategic game of continually being with the correct people, and being a part of the right numbers, has performed well in challenges in her own right. There's not anyone that you can look at this point in the game and say oh, they don't deserve to be here. There's no way they can win.
Yeah. And even Ben, I mean, people I know were really kind of...
They rag on him a little bit.
Yes, yeah, there's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. But I mean, he deserves to be there. He has. And even Will admitted it. And we see that one point when he's being interviewed, he admitted Ben has used that well.
Yep.
And there is no denying. I mean, he's in the final, what is it, 7?
Mm-hmm. 6 now.
Yeah, final 6.
Yep. Yeah, he admits that he's outsmarted us. He's bluffed us and it's working, you know? So it's really anyone's game at this point. I still think that Lydia's case is the most interesting, especially at this point, because she is very clearly would be the next target. Those 5 are pretty close. She, was the only one left because they're saying it's probably Jake or Lydia. Well, now Jake's gone, so it's probably Lydia. Yeah. She's clearly at the bottom, a clear, easy vote, but she has this totem and no one knows about it.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Cause, yeah, I know. And I mean, I remember at this point, like, I was so rooting for her. And like, yeah, I'm not lying. I think originally I was like, not at all. Like, she wasn't on my radar. I was like, I don't know who this girl is. Yep. But by this point, I was like, I want her to win.
Yeah, I think that, among the crew, like, because, you know, we're not like influencing things for any particular person. We're influencing things in the game in general, like when things need to be shaken up, and not like, oh, we want to get Ben an advantage. Here's an advantage for Ben, you know. Anyway.
No, yeah.
But I think the buzz in like the production side of things was like, dude, Lydia.
Yeah.
Like,
we were all like, she's
stuff.
Insane.
Yeah.
She should win. Like, she is crazy.
She's played a great game and is in a really tough spot here. But again, like we talked about, has that advantage and the opportunity to make a big move for it to really blow up in her face. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. Only 3 more episodes. And that includes the finale. We have to figure out what we'll do for the finale recap. Because we don't want to... I mean, it'll show live. We'll just get to... The only thing that won't show, obviously, is like the winner reveal. Because that'll be live, you know? We could do a recap maybe of the finale and post it, and like... We just obviously won't talk about who the winner is because... Or maybe we
won't even know, technically.
Yeah. Well, you won't know.
Okay. Wait, are you going to look ahead of time?
I know.
Do you know?
I looked when I was out there.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know, but I don't know for sure that I know. Okay. Well, anyway. We'll figure it out. Yes.
Make sure that you are, if you're still watching, make sure you're at our live finale night because you are the superest of super fans if you're watching this 20-minute recap. Yeah. December 9th, Sherwood Oaks Worship Center, live finale, reunion show. Winner will be crowned. It will be great.
I'll be there.
Hannah will be there.
Alex will be there.
I'll be there. It'll be great.
You should be there.
You should be there too. Wonderful. Okay, thanks for watching.
Happy Halloween. Well, it's not Halloween anymore, but I feel like I need to say that.
This comes out on November 11th.
Belated Happy Halloween.
It's currently Halloween. Happy November 11th.